It was a night etched in her memory, one Emma could never forget. The sky rumbled with thunder, rain pouring down in relentless sheets as she drove down a deserted road. Her mind was clouded with the chaos of the day, too many tasks, too little rest, and a storm that mirrored the turmoil inside her. The headlights barely cut through the dark, and before she realized it, a sharp turn loomed ahead. Her car skidded, tires screeching against the slick pavement, spinning out of control. Time seemed to freeze as the vehicle veered off the road, smashing into the guardrail. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and everything went black. When she came to, the air was heavy with rain and the metallic tang of blood. Trapped, injured, and disoriented, Emma felt the weight of helplessness pressing down on her chest. Her vision blurred, but she caught a glimpse of someone, a silhouette against the stormy backdrop. A man, drenched and determined, appeared out of nowhere. Without hesitation, he pulled her from the wreckage, shielding her from the downpour. His voice was calm yet urgent as he reassured her, "You're going to be okay. I've got you." Before Emma could fully comprehend what was happening, he carried her to safety, called for help, and stayed by her side until paramedics arrived. But just as suddenly as he appeared, he vanished into the night. No name, no explanation, just a fleeting act of selflessness that left Emma alive, but filled with questions. Who was this man? Why did he save her? And why did he leave without a word? This was the night that changed everything for Emma, sparking a journey that would take her a decade to complete, a journey to uncover the identity of the stranger who saved her life. In the days following the accident, Emma found herself grappling with a mix of emotions. There was gratitude for being alive, a deep sense of awe for the mysterious stranger who had saved her, and an unshakable curiosity about who he might have been. However, life had a way of moving forward, and so did Emma. The physical scars from the crash healed with time, but the emotional impact lingered. Emma found herself questioning the direction of her life. The close brush with death had given her a fresh perspective on everything she had taken for granted. She began to reconsider the choices she had made, the long hours at work, the strained relationships with loved ones, and the dreams she had put on hold. The accident became a turning point. Emma quit her high-stress job and moved back to her hometown, seeking the simplicity and connection she had once cherished. She mended fences with her estranged family, rekindled old friendships, and even took up hobbies she had abandoned in her pursuit of success. Painting, reading, and long walks in nature became her solace, helping her rebuild her sense of self. Yet, despite the positive changes, one question haunted her. Who was the man who had risked his life to save hers? Emma couldn't forget his face, or what little she had seen of it in the chaos. His actions had sparked a profound shift in her life, and she longed to thank him, to know his story. But as the years passed, the trail seemed cold, and she began to accept that she might never find him. Still, Emma carried his memory with her, using it as a source of strength. Whenever challenges arose, she thought of his selflessness and bravery. It reminded her that even in the darkest moments, there is light, and that one act of kindness can ripple outward, changing lives in ways unimaginable. Emma's life grew richer, more meaningful, but the unanswered question of her savior's identity remained a quiet ache in her heart. Little did she know, the answer would come when she least expected it, unraveling a story even more extraordinary than she could have imagined. As the years passed, Emma's curiosity about the stranger who saved her life transformed into a quiet determination. She couldn't shake the thought that she owed him not only her gratitude, but also an acknowledgement of how deeply his actions had impacted her life. It wasn't enough to carry his memory. She wanted to find him and express the gratitude that had been building in her heart for a decade. Her search began with the incident itself. Emma revisited the site of the accident, hoping to uncover any clues she might have missed. She combed through police reports and hospital records, but the man's identity was nowhere to be found. Frustratingly, the only description available was a vague one provided by a bystander, a man in his late 40s with dark hair and a weathered jacket. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Emma turned to social media, posting her story and asking for help in identifying the man who had pulled her from the wreckage. Her heartfelt post quickly went viral, drawing responses from people all over the world. Strangers reached out with messages of support, some offering tips or connections, but no one seemed to know the man she described. Undeterred, Emma expanded her search. She interviewed local residents who might have been in the area that day, visited shelters and community centers, and even placed ads in newspapers. While she didn't find him, she heard countless stories of kindness and heroism from people who were inspired by her quest. Each story fueled her determination, but also reminded her of the vastness of the world and the difficulty of her task. Months turned into years, and while her efforts seemed fruitless, Emma refused to give up. She felt a deep connection to this stranger, a bond that transcended logic. Her life had been forever altered by his actions, and she believed he deserved to know how his bravery had sparked a chain reaction of positive change in her life. Emma's journey of searching wasn't just about finding the stranger, it was also about finding herself. Along the way, she rediscovered her resilience, her capacity for hope, and the kindness of humanity. Yet the ache of the unanswered question remained. Who was he? Where was he now? And why had he disappeared so quietly into the night after saving her life? Little did she know, the answers she sought were closer than she imagined, and when she finally uncovered the truth, it would lead her to a revelation that would change everything she thought she knew about her own story. It was an ordinary day when the extraordinary happened. Emma was attending a community fundraiser, a cause she supported as part of her journey to pay kindness forward. Amid the crowd of people, her eyes fell on a familiar face. A man stood quietly in the corner, his weathered jacket and salt and pepper hair catching her attention. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be him? Emma's mind raced as she approached him cautiously, unsure of what to say. When their eyes met, there was a flicker of recognition. The man's warm, humble smile felt like an unspoken confirmation. She introduced herself hesitantly, explaining her quest to find the stranger who had saved her life. His expression changed subtly, a mix of surprise, modesty, and perhaps a touch of pride. "Yes," he finally said, his voice calm but filled with emotion. "I remember that day. I didn't think anyone would come looking for me after all these years." Emma was overwhelmed. Tears welled in her eyes as she thanked him, pouring out the words she had rehearsed in her mind 1,000 times. She described how his selfless act had not only saved her physically, but had inspired her to lead a life of gratitude and service. The man, whose name was revealed to be Jonathan, listened quietly, his face softened by her words. He shared his side of the story, explaining how he had been passing by when he saw the accident. "I didn't think twice," he said. "It was just the right thing to do." He never expected recognition and had gone on with his life, keeping the memory to himself. As their conversation deepened, Emma learned more about Jonathan's life. He was a retired firefighter who had spent decades risking his life to save others. That day, he had been on his way to visit his late wife's favorite park, a personal tradition that helped him feel close to her. Helping Emma had felt like a continuation of his life's purpose, protecting others, even when he thought his days of heroism were behind him. The connection between them grew as they talked. Emma marveled at his humility, while Jonathan was moved by her determination and gratitude. Their meeting wasn't just a reunion. It was the closure Emma had sought for years, and a profound moment for Jonathan to see the ripple effect of his actions. As the fundraiser buzzed on around them, they shared stories and laughter, feeling as though they had known each other forever. Emma invited Jonathan to be part of her life, to meet the people whose lives had been touched by her because of his one act of bravery. Jonathan agreed, his heart full of pride, but also a quiet joy that came from knowing he had truly made a difference. That day marked a new beginning for both of them, a reunion of gratitude and purpose. Emma had found her stranger, and Jonathan had found a lasting legacy in the life he had saved. Together, they stood as living proof of how one moment of courage could create a lifetime of change. In the days following her meeting with Jonathan, Emma found herself consumed by deep gratitude and reflection. For years, she had thought of him as a faceless hero, a stranger who had saved her life and disappeared into the shadows. Now, knowing his name, his story, and the humility with which he carried himself, the impact of his actions felt even greater. Emma couldn't stop replaying their conversation in her mind. The way Jonathan had downplayed his heroism, referring to it as just the right thing to do, struck her deeply. She realized how much the world often overlooks quiet acts of bravery, acts that shape lives in ways words can't fully capture. Meeting him had brought clarity to something she had always felt, but never fully articulated. Her second chance at life wasn't just a gift, it was a responsibility. She began journaling her thoughts, hoping to preserve the emotions and insights from their reunion. As she wrote, Emma reflected on how that single moment had been the foundation of her journey. She thought about the countless ways her life had transformed since the accident. The new friendships she had built, the causes she had championed, and the opportunities she had embraced were all linked to that one act of kindness. Emma also considered how Jonathan's story intertwined with hers. He hadn't saved her by chance. It was the culmination of a lifetime dedicated to helping others. Learning about his career as a firefighter, his personal losses, and the quiet strength he carried had given her a newfound appreciation for the invisible threads that connect people. What struck Emma most was the ripple effect of his actions. Because of Jonathan, she had found a purpose in uplifting others, and that purpose had touched the lives of so many people around her. It's like planting a seed, she thought. You never know how far the branches will grow. Emma's gratitude deepened as she reflected on the support she had received over the years from friends, family, and even strangers inspired by her story. Jonathan may have been the catalyst, but the journey since then had been a shared effort. It reminded her that gratitude isn't just about acknowledging the past. It's about honoring it through the choices you make every day. She decided to channel this gratitude into something tangible. Inspired by Jonathan's humility and strength, Emma envisioned creating a community project, a platform where stories of courage and kindness could be shared. It would be a way to inspire others to look beyond themselves, just as Jonathan had done for her. As she closed her journal one evening, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She was no longer searching, no longer tethered to an unanswered question. Meeting Jonathan had given her closure, but more than that, it had given her a new beginning. She vowed to carry his legacy forward, not just in her actions, but in her spirit. Every life is a story, she thought, and every story has the power to change the world. Emma stood at the edge of the park where the accident had occurred years ago. The once chaotic scene that marked the most pivotal moment of her life now felt serene, almost poetic. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the breeze brush against her face, a reminder of how far she had come. Her journey had been a testament to the extraordinary impact of one act of kindness. Meeting Jonathan, the stranger who had saved her, had brought everything full circle. It wasn't just the act of saving her life that had left a mark. It was the selflessness, humility, and courage he embodied. It taught her the true meaning of heroism: quiet, unassuming actions that ripple through the lives they touch. Emma's life was forever changed, not only by surviving, but by the choices she made in the aftermath. The gratitude she felt had grown into a purpose that extended beyond herself. She now saw every moment, every relationship, and every challenge as a part of a larger story. A story she was determined to honor. Reflecting on her journey, Emma realized that Jonathan's influence didn't end with the day he saved her. It lived on in the way she approached life, in the connections she formed, and in the kindness she extended to others. He had given her more than a second chance. He had given her a new perspective. As Emma prepared to leave the park, she turned back one last time, smiling at the spot where her story had begun. She felt no sadness, only gratitude. Gratitude for Jonathan, for the people who had supported her along the way, and for the strength she had discovered within herself. Life had come full circle, but it was far from over. Emma knew that the legacy of kindness and courage was hers to carry forward. She whispered a silent thank you into the wind, knowing that wherever Jonathan was, his spirit continued to inspire. Walking away, Emma felt lighter than ever. Her life had been forever changed, and she was ready to change the lives of others in return.